Hello? I think we're live. Is the music okay? Let me just bump it up a little. Sorry, my voice is cracking. I don't know why. I think I'm losing my voice. Very inopportune time to start a stream, just as my voice starts to go. How's everyone doing today? Yeah, some of the spells are a little hard to read. The first one is Agnia's Arrow. Don't worry, I'll say them when we go through them. Give it a couple of minutes for people to sort of congregate. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Is the volume of the music and everything okay? I am sorry for these voice cracks. I think I'm losing my voice. Hopefully it comes back soon. So, I forgot to tweet. Okay. So, without any further ado, I think we can probably crack on. So today we are going to be tiering all of the spells in Fire Emblem Three Houses. This tier list was voted for by the Patreons back in November, I think, so just getting around to it now. And yeah, if you want to become a patron, there's a link in the description. You can find out more information about it over on there. And yeah, thank you to everyone who does support the channel over there. It is greatly appreciated. So, we will be going through all of the spells in the game. We will only be considering them from a player perspective, so not how the enemy uses them or anything like that. We will be considering we won't be considering them in a vacuum, is probably an easier way to put it. So the units that get the spells and things like that do factor in as to how good a spell is, because a spell is only as good as its use cases. So that will matter to an extent. Is there anything else? This will be considering the Maddening difficulty on a regular new game file with no exploits or excessive grinding, also no online play, and I won't be factoring in the Pagan altar. Any amiibos, or anything else that I don't use because I can't speak to stuff I don't use. I think that's everything, actually. I don't think there's anything else that I missed. It feels like there is. There's something like I've not mentioned something, but I don't know what. And it won't go away out of my head. But unless it wants to pop into my brain now, nope. So I guess we can just oh, I typically don't do Orcs battles. That's the other thing that might factor in. I can't really judge these if you were using Orcs battles, because I don't. See, I think no Orcs battles a month is normal, because, like, I don't think Three Houses ever requires you to grind, and I don't see why you'd grind if you didn't need to. I think that's just making the game more tedious for yourself. Like, I typically treat Orcs battles as the same way I treat, like, the Tower of Volney and Sacred Stones. Like, I just don't think you do them. So, before we start, does anyone have any questions, anything that needs clarifying? I'll give it, like, a minute. And then we can dive right in. Yeah, I do wonder what that S plus tier is for. That nice little purple tier at the top. Okay, I think we should be good to go. So, without any further ado, let's get underway. And we will be starting with Agnia's Arrow. This is an A rank spell which is available on... Well, actually, it's not. It's only A rank on Laurens. It's A plus on Constance and Dorothea. It brings a lot of might with 16, but it's also quite heavy with 13 weight. 70 hit, 5 crit, and 1-2 range. It comes with 2 uses as standard. No other effects to speak of. It's fine. Where's the music just gone? I don't even know what tab it's in. Hold on. I have too many windows open. Okay, hold on. I forgot to press loop. I didn't make the tier list. I didn't misspell Fortify, whoever made the tier list did. Oh, wait, sorry, you were talking in the chat. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Abso. I understand what you mean now. I'm just a bit slow. So, yeah, Agnia's Arrow is fairly okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's the highest might, like, black magic spell. It just comes so late, and even then, 18 might is still... It's not... Oh, sorry, 16 might is not exceptional. It can still struggle to kill in a couple of, like, situations, but... Actually, quite a few situations. 16 might's just pretty mediocre, and 70 hit is also, like... The biggest issue is, like, how late it comes. Like, A+ is such a large requirement. Especially on the units who don't necessarily... Like, they have Reason boons, but they don't necessarily raise it so easily. Reason's just, like, a slower stat to raise than your weapon stats, because you can't typically enemy phase very well with magic. I think this probably goes... It's somewhere between fine and above average. I'll go fine for now, and we can move it up later if things look weird. I say this every time, but tiering the first couple is always a little bit odd. Yeah, like, by the time you get this, the units who have it will also have better options available to them. They've been mentioned in the chat that things like Soul Blade, Hexblade, and Frozen Lance are just much better kill tools than this, although Agnia's Arrow can have... Obviously, it has more range by default, and then you have things like Fire Source, Valkyrie, Black Magic range +1, which all increase that further. You can be hitting from, like, 6 tiles away with this thing, so that's quite nice when it can kill. But I think, by and large, like, it's fine for where it comes. It's a perfectly reasonable late-game spell, but A+ is so late. If it was A rank, I think this would probably comfortably sit in above average, but A+ is just a little bit much. And usually, like, having to push up to A+ is just investment you don't want to do. You want to be going down other things at that point in time. You want to be going for late game classes or things like that, or into faith rather than reason. Something along those lines. So I think we're going to put it in fine for now. If fine looks out of place for it, we can always move it later down the line. So, moving on to Blizzard. This is a spell with 3 might, 4 weight, 70 hit, 15 crit, and 1-2 range that comes with 10 uses by default. And the units who access this are Bernadetta, Ignatz, Ingrid, Marianne, and Shamir at the D rank for all of those. Its distribution's really weird. There's only really Marianne who will ever actually see this. I mean, you can go magical on, like, Bernadetta or Ingrid and get some benefit from that, but by and large, I think most people don't. So I think Marianne's pretty much the only real recipient of this. And it's just a worse version of Fire. It has the same might, but it has more weight and 20 less hit. Now, it does have 15 crit thrown in there, but at the point where you would want, like, to be using Blizzard, 15 crit isn't really anything you can take advantage of. It's just so unreliably And I actually think this is pretty poor. I think, like, there are other early game spells which are quite a bit better than this. And it's just relatively mediocre for that point in time. Like, if you miss early game with this, especially with limited Divine Pulses, it can really cost you a sizable amount of XP, which can be really important for reaching level 5. Because you want to reach level 5 as early as possible to get out of Commoner and Noble, and to lose the half spellcast that those classes provide. An early spell being unreliable is just very, very unfortunate to be in. It's funny with Ignatz because hit plus 20. That's actually a good point. Like, I guess it'd be okay on Ignatz, but also I think you'd rather just hit things with physical attacks with Ignatz at the time when this would be relevant. Like, even if you were going into reason to do magical things with Ignatz, just use bows until you can. I don't remember off the top of my head what magic Ignatz gets, but I don't think it's anything too impressive. I'm sure we'll figure it out through the course of this. I think he gets Thimble Vetra? I might be wrong. But yeah, I think on the whole, Blizzard is pretty poor, and they're, like, even in comparison to the other early game options, they're significantly better. So, moving on to Bolganon. Bolganon is an 8 might spell with 6 weight, 85 hit, 1-2 range, and 5 uses at base. And it is accessible to... Oh, this is a lot of units. At the C rank, it's accessible to Alois, Balthus, Byleth, Caspar, Catherine, Dadu, Edelgard, Leonie, Manuela, Mercedes, Raphael, Sylvain. And at the B rank, Ferdinand, Linhart, and Seteth. That's a lot of units, however, the only ones of those who will typically make use of this are Manuela, Mercedes, and Linhart. You could maybe see it on Sylvain or Leonie or something like that. But the ones where it's probably truly relevant are Manuela, Mercedes, and Linhart. It's okay-ish. The B rank on Linhart is kind of bad. It's not a great B rank spell, but a C rank spell, 8 might, it's reasonably accurate with 85. It's... I think it's probably in fine. Mortal Savant Edelgard for the win, true. Hadn't considered that, good point. Blizzard, Cutting Gale, and Thimble Vetra. Hey, we got them all as a group, at least. We remembered them all. But yeah, like, 8 might is, like, fairly reasonable for a C rank spell. It's not something you're gonna complain about too much. It's reasonably accurate with 85 hit. You know, it's not down in the depths of 70 or 65 like some other spells go to. But there's just not that many units who get it or actually want it. You're looking at, like, Mercedes and Manuela and then potentially Linhart later down the line at B rank. It's its distribution that's probably holding it back the most out of anything. You could see it on Leonie. Obviously, we did on the recent stream playthrough that we did, where we used some interesting builds. We had a Valkyrie Leonie who was just running around nuking things with Bolganon and Fire and Ragnarok, which was a lot of fun. But I think, like, by and large, you're looking at fine. Fire and Bolganon for Alois, is that it? Well, he does not get many spells. Oh god, we're on to the big one. I didn't want to be on this one this early. Little did I realise how alphabetical order worked. Okay, it's time to talk about bolting. Before we even go into it, let's just say my opinions on bolting are already pretty clear. I think it's quite overrated, by and large. So, bolting is a... don't know where I was going with that sentence. Bolting is a spell with 12 might, 18 weight, 65 hit, 15 crits, 3 to 10 range, and 2 uses at default. As a note, it cannot make follow-up attacks, so you can't double with this. Unlike in some other games in the series, we've had some fun with that in Path of Radiance lately. And it's only available to 3 units at the A rank, Constance, Hilda, and Manuela. So, first of all, I think we can talk about the units who aren't Constants who get this. They make very little use of it. Manuela has a Reason Bane, which means getting this is a hell of a lot of investment to reach her all the way up to A. And Hilda is just not typically a unit who you would go down a magical path with. She'd normally go with something like a Wyvern Rider as Battalion Wrath dodge tanking. Even if you wanted to go deviate from that, I don't think you're going magical with Hilda. It can potentially have some use as a Dancer Hilda, I guess, but even then, it's nothing too impactful. Constance is the one who makes the most use of this, and in the mid-game, and I guess like the early stages of the late game, it can actually be very useful. But past that, it really struggles to kill. It can pick off like things like Armor Knights and things like that, but like they're just not threatening enemies anyway. There is even a point where it starts to stop killing snipers, which is very disappointing because one of its big sort of use cases is taking care of Ballista. And you can't really take care of Siege Stones with it because they're typically very high resistance. What really holds it back is that Might of 12. It's just so low for the point in time. Like, 12 Might is just not enough. Yeah, I think that's the big point of it. Like, it needs to kill siege weapons, and it struggles to do that. It also struggles to kill a lot of things that are generally just threats. Like paladins, it really struggles to take out, which are the kind of things you want to be killing from 10 range because they have 8 move. There's no point in killing, like, a mercenary from 6 range, or from 10 range or something, because they're very limited in movement. Like, the things you want to kill are the things it can't kill. And it's just sort of leaves it in quite a difficult position. Now, that being said, I don't think bolting is bad. Being able to chip from long range is really nice. It has sort of constant contributions as a chip spell, I guess. It makes it a lot easier to deal with things with, say, like your enemy phase units. You can just hit them. You don't have to worry about bagging a player phase crit or something. I think, by and large, I would call bolting above average. At the A rank, it's just too costly for what it does for me. It definitely has its uses, and obviously Constance getting multiple casts of it with the Crest of Noah can be really useful. But a lot of the times it's either taking 2 casts to kill, or all it's doing is setting up a kill for somebody else, which for an A rank spell, I expect better. And I think, like, 10 range is nice, but in a game where you have so many movement tools or range enhancing tools, like, you can get a 3 range spell hitting up to 6 range. And I just don't think there's that many situations you need to kill an enemy who's 10 range away. Which is, I don't know, it's a little bit disappointing. A lot of people really, really like bolting, and if you're able to get good use out of it, obviously don't let me turn you away from what you're actually experiencing in the game, but for me personally, I've never found it to be overly impactful. It's a useful spell to have, but not anything that's like, I don't think it's pivotal to any of the units who get it, including Constance. I think she has far more important things in her kit, and one of those we'll get to later, but by and large, I think, actually, I'll just throw it out there. I think Agnia's Arrow is a more important spell to Constance than bolting is, because the kill power is just so nice. But yeah, by and large, I think bolting just lacks punch. 12 might is just not enough for the stage at the game when you get this. And it struggles to kill in the late game, which, for me, is just going to put it in above average. It's a solid spell, but it's nothing... Does bolting get a range increase from Thyrsus, etc.? Yes. But again, I don't really think you need to kill an enemy from 12 tiles away. Like, if an enemy's 10 squares away, they're just not a threat at that point in time, in most situations. There are exceptions, obviously, but for the most part, an enemy that's 10 tiles away is just not really threatening you currently, so it doesn't really matter if they're dead or alive. Being able to pick off some Gambit users and things like that to keep your enemy phase unit safe is definitely very nice, but again, once it starts to fall off in terms of kill power, it just can't do that as much. I mean, Magic has a lot of drawbacks. By and large, Magic is significantly far behind physical attacks in Three Houses. The only thing that really props it up is enemies having paper-thin resistance in some cases. But you're really limited on casts, you can't use combat arts with it. And, like, every unit has ranged options, which really hurts Magic in Three Houses. Cutting Gale. Cutting Gale is a spell with 7 might, 5 weight, 95 hit, 10 crit, 1-2 range, and 6 uses at base. It's accessible at the C rank to Annette, Ash, Cyril, Flame, Ignatz, Linhardt, Seteth, and Yuri, and the B rank to Claude and Marianne. I think Cutting Gale is really, really comfortably good as a C rank spell. It's really accurate, 7 might is serviceable, it's okay, and it's on a good spread of unit. Annette appreciates it, Flame appreciates it, Linhardt does. And Marianne at the B rank, it's not a good B rank spell, but it's okay because it's so accurate. Like, you will find situations where Cutting Gale is your best option of being a spell to click. And it has uses in those cases. I think it's probably slightly above average. Yeah, Yuri can also make use of it, so can Ignatz. Even Ash, maybe? I don't know. Ash just needs stuff to do. Yeah, I agree. I also think of this as sort of like being the Linhardt spell. There are definitely cases where having access to this is just so useful. Similar to bolting, really. I think situationally this is just a very handy thing to have. Being able to just chip things very comfortably is nice, and that's what both these spells do. Cutting Gale offers extreme reliability, bolting offers the very large range. They're just both very useful chip spells, which is nice. It's more consistent than bolting, but it hits a lot less hard. Like, at least bolting has some things it can kill. Yeah, that's definitely true about Marianne. For sure. My issue with, like, Marianne is, like, the point where she reaches B reason is normally when my main point of... Actually, scratch that. My main point of killing with her is normally just Frozen Lance. So I'm not, like, too used to relying on spells with her. But by and large, like, yeah, Cutting Gale does have some definitely useful use cases, and again, similar to bolting, it's just a very useful chip tool. Useful for different reasons, but they fulfill a similar role. Onto the other wind spell, the other high-ranked one at least, and we're onto Excalibur. 11 might, 8 weight, 100 accuracy, 15 crit, 1-2 range, and 4 uses at base. And it deals bonus damage to flying units. It is accessible to... I scrolled down too far. It's accessible to Annette, Claude, Flane, Linhardt, Seteth, and Yuri at the A rank. Annette, obviously the big recipient of this. Flane and Linhardt can also get some benefit. Claude, Seteth, Yuri, probably not so much. I guess you could do something with Yuri. It's a useful kill for... It's useful kill... It's a useful tool for killing flyers, but I'm still not sure how reliable it is for that. Like, you probably still are needing a little bit more to be able to bring them down, especially Pegasus Knights. I think you can probably pick off, like, wyverns and flying monsters with this, but I would say those are less common, although I'm not, like, 100% certain of that. It's reasonably okay. It's a bow, but in spell form is technically true, but, like, bows, by the stage of the game you get this, like, your A-rank spells, you're looking at, like, brave bows and things like that, and your brave combat lots, I mean. You're looking at your hunter's volley, your point-blank volley, etc., etc. 11 might is pretty poor for an A-rank spell, like, before it gets its modifier to flying units. It is definitely situational. And I think most of the times, I think Agnia's Arrow is better than this, although it is a lot later at the A+ rank. That's a lot more investment. Despite only being one little increment more. It's a big increment. That one Orcs battle versus 15 Wyverns, true. "21 might against Wyvern Riders is fairly solid. Or Wyvern Lords, sorry. I don't know, it definitely can be useful for bringing down flying enemies. I'm not sure... I think that's quite as valuable as it potentially could be, but... Like, I don't think flying enemies are necessarily overly common. I think I'm mostly seeing mounts later in the game, but... It definitely does have its use cases. I think most of the time I'd rather have Agnia's Arrow than this. I think it's fine for an A-rank spell. But just clicking this on a standard enemy feels bad. Although 4 uses is fairly reasonable for an A-rank spell, actually, if we look at other things like bolting. It's very reliable as well, 100 accuracy, but... 100 accuracy, 11 might for an A-rank? The bonus damage to flying units is nice, though. Has to be said. I don't know, I think it's fine. I don't have any, like, super strong feelings towards it. Like, I don't think it's great or anything like that, but... It's okay. It does its job. It kills flying things, and not much else. It's limited, but it fills a role in your team. I think the units that get this would probably rather have other A-rank spells than this. Maybe I'll change my mind on that when we start looking at things like Ragnarok. Thimble Vetra. Thimble Vetra is a B-rank spell with 12 might, 10 weight, 65 hit, 25 crit, 1-2 range, and 3 uses at base. It is available to Constance at the B rank, and Bernadetta, Ignatz, Ingrid, Marianne, and Shamir at the A rank. This is such an unreliable spell to only have 3 uses. If this had, like, 6 uses, I genuinely think, like, I would look at placing it a little bit higher, because 12 might for a B rank is honestly fair. Although it's only B rank on Constance, right? For the others, it's A. Is that correct? Yeah, it does. Okay, 12 might for an A rank is fairly poor. It's bolting level. And it's got the same accuracy problems with just 65 hit. It's okay on constants for a B rank spell. Ingrid makes decent use of it. I mean, I could see Ingrid using it. The problem is that, like, if you were using Ingrid with it, you would likely need doubling to kill, and that means you can kill 1 enemy per map. You could kill 3 if you were in a class with black magic uses ×2, I guess, if you were in, like, Darkflyer or something. Even still, that's really kind of limited. It's... I agree, I get the comparisons to Blizzard. The thing is, Blizzard's available, like, in the early game when you don't necessarily have many other options. At the time when you get this, like, Constance will have Soul Blade, Ingrid will have, well, might not will, but can have Frozen Lance. Marianne will have Frozen Lance. Like, the value of this is so much lower compared to its time in the game. But that being said, it is better. Like, it hits a lot harder. I don't think Thimble Vetra's at the bottom. I think there are definitely worse spells than Thimble Vetra. I think Thimble Vetra's... It's fine on Constance and kind of poor on everybody else. For an A-rank spell, this is bad. For an A-rank spell, this is straight up really bad. I think it's, like, pretty solid on Constance, but the other units who get it just don't make any use of it at all. And they would literally rather have any A ranks. But, like, Excalibur is way more desirable than this. Yeah, this has to go in poor. If you were comparing it to other A rank spells, Excalibur, Bolting, and later down the line Ragnarok, they're way more desirable than Thimble Vetra is. It's just such an unreliable spell to only have 3 uses. I don't know, it feels like something's, like, missing from this spell. Like, it should have had something else to make it stand out other than just 25 crit, because the 25 crit is almost compensated for by just the massive accuracy drop. It just doesn't feel like an A-rank spell. It feels like a B-rank spell. Like, feels like where it should have been. It's just really disappointing. Yeah, I wasn't expecting Thimble Vetra to go into poor, I'll be honest, but, I think that's probably where it belongs. I think it could have had more crit. Like, I think if this had, like, 45 crit or something ridiculous, its limited uses would make sense, because it's got a high chance of just deleting something. But, like, you've got a high chance of missing. Like, you've got 3 chances to miss an attack, and if you hit it, it might do a lot of damage with a crit. Although, even with a crit, it's still doing less damage than effective damage from Dark Spikes on mounted units, which is a lot more reliable. Yeah, this is bad. This is just bad. Like, a crit with this is still only 36 damage, which is not great. Actually, no, it's not. Of course it's not, because a crit's tripling all your damage, whereas effective damage is only the spell's damage. That was a stupid thing of me to say. But I suppose from the spell itself. I don't know, that was a bad analogy, but... Let's move on to a good spell. Oh, I've got the disambiguation open. Fire. Fire is a spell that has 3 might, 3 weight, 90 hit, 1/2 range, 10 uses at a base, and is available on Constance innately, Alois, Anna, Balthus, Byleth, Caspar, Catherine, Dedu, Edelgard, Leonie, Lawrence, Mercedes, Raphael, Sylvain at D, and Ferdinand and Linhart at D+. Now, the other thing with Fire is it also comes from the Fire ability, which is available to the Mage class, and that alone puts it in very good. This spell is so accessible. 3 might for an early game spell is, like, okay. It's not as good as everything, but it's fine. But that 90 hit is so reliable, and that's what you need in the early game. Especially with just sort of its incredible availability with Mage. It's really good. It's just comfortably very solid. At most stages in the mid-game, pressing Fire is going to be your best option. just when you're in that mage class, just because it's so reliable and it's got a decent amount of uses. You can just click this. It's light, you can double with a lot of units on it. Especially against, like, from, like, chapters, like, 6 to, like, say, 9. 9 doesn't make sense because that's just monsters. But 6 to, like, 10, when enemies are already weighed down by steel weaponry, you can get a lot of doubles with fire, even on, like, mid-speed units. Which is comfortably just very nice. Being able to hit things for decent damage reliably is good. And this is a really good option to get your units into that level 5 very early with the units that get access to it. Almost any unit that gets, like, the other early spells, Thunder, Miasma even, Blizzard, would rather have Fire. If Fire had 5 less hit, it wouldn't be nearly as good, true. But this is just so accessible, it's so reliable, and it's almost always a benefit to units that can get to use it. It's also really nice, weirdly, on, like, Leone for, like, doubling in a mage class. I don't know, I just think every unit that gets fire appreciates having fire. I don't think fire is in S, because I think there is a spell in S that is leaps and bounds better than fire. Personally. But we can maybe revisit that once the tier list is done, if anything needs moving around. Meteor. Meteor is just bolting at home. It's the worst version of bolting. It has 10 might, 19 weight, 80 hit, 3 to 10 range, 1 use per map at default, and it can't make follow-up attacks, so it can't double, and it also deals 50% of its damage to foes adjacent to the target. It is accessible at the A rank to Anna and Dorothea, and A+ to Hanneman. This is bad. This is poor. The only real use of Meteor is that Dorothea can equip it when she's in Dancer to give people linked attack bonuses. That's literally the biggest use of Meteor. There's very little positive about this spell. 10 might is so low for an A rank spell, let alone A+ on Hanneman. 80 hit is okay, like it's just about fine, but again, for an A rank or A+ spell, I'm expecting better than serviceable hit, to be honest. 3 to 10 range has exactly the same things to do with it that I said with bolting. I don't think 10 range is ever particularly necessary. And it has 1 use per map. This is, like, just not good. Splash damage is kind of bad because 3 houses map are... I think the bigger issue with the splash damage is enemies are typically, like, stood in diagonals to each other. Like, when they're placed on a map. Like, I don't know if that's just confirmation bias speaking, but, like, it feels like that's a very common deployment of enemies. Like, they'll be stood not adjacent to each other, but diagonal. Because the game's trying to position around your gambits, right? So, the splash damage just a lot of the time doesn't do much until enemies start moving. Yeah, like, if this was in Genealogy or something, like, yeah, the splash damage would actually be kind of useful, but in 3 houses, I don't think it's doing a lot. And also, like, it's just kind of eh. It just... 10 might. Like, really? That's what you're giving me? Fire Emblem Barbecue, true. I don't know, 1 use per map as well, like, what do you... I don't know, it doesn't even have, like, the benefit of having, like, a constants to make use of it, like a unit with such a ridiculous magic stat that they can still stand the potential of critting. Like, Hanneman has a reasonable magic stat, but I don't think he's killing with this, and an A+ rank, I don't think maybe he kills is good enough. Dorothea is not killing with this, and Anna is... she's not even in the conversation. Bolting has 2 casts, yes. I don't know, this is just really bad for a late game spell. If this was a B rank spell, it would still only be fine. Like, the fact it's an A rank spell is not worth the investment, basically, ever. It's nice, I guess it is kind of nice to have. Like, there are situations where you could click it, so it probably is worth the investment, strictly speaking. But the reward for that investment is pretty bad compared to every other A+ rank, or A rank spell. Like, compare this to Agnia's Arrow. There's no competition there. Dorothea's normally just running around hexblading things. But yeah, that is a good point. Like, you'll get it on units because what else are they doing? But, like, even when you get it, it's not contributing massive amounts to them. Honestly, if Meteor was a C-rank spell, I still don't think it would reach above average. Just doesn't do it. It doesn't kill things. If it rattled, that would be really cool. It would give it a lot of use. It would probably jump to, like, very good, honestly, if it rattled. But it just... The biggest problem with Meteor is it doesn't do anything. Actually true, Madak. Yeah, if we're talking about Hubert's Meteor, it's really annoying and actually kind of strong. But it doesn't even have, like, the benefit of, like, a constants to use it. Like, yeah, it struggles. It's not great. Ragnarok is a 15 might, 9 weight spell with 80 hit, 5 crit, 1-2 range, and 3 uses at base. It is available at the B rank to Lorenz and the A rank to Balthus, Byleth, Dudu, Hanneman, Leone, Mercedes, and Sylvain. Wait, this thing's distribution is horrible. I didn't realize it was this bad. Like, okay, Lorenz getting it a B, really cool, no problems with that, but like, past that you're looking at Hanneman and Mercedes. Ew. Like, no solid mages get this. That's weird. Actually, just never realized, like, how poorly it was distributed. I thought it was, like, more present than that, honestly. Strange. It's reasonably punchy, especially for the B rank spell at Lorenz. Like, 15 might is okay, it's okay. The A rank, it's fine, I guess. It's one less than Agnia's Arrow, I suppose. So, for a rank less, that's not too bad. 3 uses is fine for an A rank spell here. It's at least, like, reliable and, like, Thimble Vetra. This is just not exciting at all. It's just a punchy spell that isn't quite punchy enough in a lot of situations. But it's still better than a lot of your alternative options. There's, like, here or something. Yeah, like, the Hanneman thing is really weird, because he's probably the one with the might to make use of this, like, to back up its actual spell's might in the first place, but he can't go into, like, Dark Flower or anything where you would want to use it. Like, what are you doing, like, Dark Knight Hanneman? Wouldn't you rather click Bolganon instead? I mean, it has a lot more might than Bolganon, right? Bolganon has 8, if I remember rightly. But yeah, I see your point for sure. I don't know. I think like getting this, like, yeah, you get a little bit more kill power, but like, it's still not... The problem is it's still not enough to kill most things. Hey, Horn State God. Hey, Tegan, hope you're enjoying your party. I mean, if it actually nuked, I would be quite happy with it. But it doesn't. So I'm not. If it consistently killed, I would be fine with it, but like it just doesn't. It might actually be better than Agnia's Arrow because it has better distribution and units get it earlier. There's like 1 might difference between the two. Yeah, I could actually see it going above Agnia's Arrow. It gets more uses as well. Yeah, if Fretless were a character... I don't know, actually. Would you give Thassus to Lysithea? Maybe. You'd probably still just trade it between the two. Has about 20 might and echoes, and I think they nerfed it. Okay. Yeah, Ragnarok isn't great. Okay, so next we have Cutting Gale Part 2, otherwise known as Sagate. It has 7 might, 6 weight, 90 hit, 5 crit, 1-2 range, and 10 uses. It's just a worse version of current Cutting Gale that can be cast more. This is... like... super fine. It's innate on Hanneman, Claude, Constance, Lawrence, Petra, and Shamir get it at the C rank, and Annette, Dorothea, Sylvain, and Yuri get it at the B rank. Yeah, it's fine. This is a reliable spell that hits for okay damage. I mean, it's everything we said about Cutting Gale, but again, you can cast more of it, but it's got a little bit less hit. And it comes later on some characters like Annette, which is weird. But it's fine. It's also got, actually, to be fair to Sagate, it's got better distribution than Cutting Gale quite a lot. Like, Hanneman, Constance, Lawrence, Annette, Dorothea is a pretty solid pool of units. Yuri, I guess, as well. It's got, like, yeah, 10 uses is, like, relevant on anyone who goes Trickster, which I think people commonly associate with Yuri. Yeah, it's a solid spell. It's just a different version of Cutting Gale. Some units get both. I hate it because I always get crit by it on Chapter 1. True, Hanneman's Sagate is, lethal. But, yeah. I don't know, it's punchy enough to do the job on a lot of units. Constance can make decent use of it. Like, it's okay. It's a really solid mid-game spell. Like, getting it at the C tier for Constance Lawrence is just really solid. Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's a very uninteresting spell, let's be honest. Even its animation is just like 3 little dribbles going towards the opponent. Like, it's the middle late game fire. That's actually a very good way to put it. It's just fire again, but you don't get it for free in a class. If Warlock gave everyone Sagate, okay, we might be talking, but unfortunately not the case. It truly is one of the spells of all time, I agree. Thorin. Thorin is a 9 might spell with 7 weight, 75 hit, 10 crit, 4 uses at base, and most importantly, 1 to 2 range. This is very good. Did I say 1 to 2? No! This is for the benefit of the edited version. Thorin. Thorin is a spell with 9 might, 7 weight, 75 hit, 10 crit, and most importantly, 1 to 3 range. It has 4 uses at base, and it is available to Bernadetta, Dimitri, Dorothea, Felix, Ferdinand, Gilbert, Hilda, Ingrid, Juritza, and Marianne at the C rank, and Hanneman at the B rank. Does Felix not learn a 3rd spell? True. This is very good. It's 1 to 3 range, which is great. Its distribution is actually a little bit scuffed. It's not got a great spread of units, but Dorothea, Marianne, Yuritsa, Hanneman, I guess, at the B rank. Even someone like Ingrid can make solid use of this. It's a good spell. Being able to attack from 3 range is really nice. It lets you outrange enemy mages, which is really cool. Felix probably does make good use of it if you go Savant. I haven't done Savant Felix since my first ever playthrough, which was on hard mode, so I can't really comment, but I imagine he does okay with it. He can probably certainly kill things with it. Yeah, there's not too much else to say about Thorin. 3 range is good, and this has 3 range, which is good. And it comes at early enough. Like, the C rank as well is something that has to be mentioned. Coming at C just makes it so valuable. Like, just having a C rank spell that's 3 range and 9 might is, yeah, it's good. The units that get this really appreciate it. Especially, like, Dorothea, because, well, we'll talk about it in a bit, but Thunder's terrible. So, her having, not only a solid kill option in terms of its damage, but also the additional range to grant her more opportunities to kill is just really nice. And obviously with things like Thyasus and Black Magic range +1, potentially twice, you can get this up to like 6 or 7 range or something ridiculous. Yeah, Thorin's very good. Thunder. Thunder is a 4 might, 4 weight, 80 hit, 5 crit, 1/2 range spell with 8 uses. It is available at as I scroll, this is available innately on Dorothea and Yuritsa, the D rank on Dimitri, Felix, Ferdinand, Gilbert, Hilda, and Manuela, and D+ on Anna, Bernadetta, Byleth, and Mercedes. This is just bad. Like, 80 hit is just annoyingly unreliable. Like, 10 hit less than fire doesn't sound like much, but in those early stages of the game, it matters quite a lot. 8 uses is probably the most harmful thing. So in Commoner and Noble, your spellcasts are halved, which means units who start with Thunder, such as Dorothea, only have 4 casts until they're able to reach level 5. But because they've only got 4 casts, it becomes a lot harder for them to reach level 5 because they can't do as much in those early chapters. So it just really kind of is an annoying, stumbling block between, like, that early stage of the game and your mages becoming good. I'm really sorry for these voice cracks, Jesus Christ, it's driving me insane. My voice is just exiting my body. Yeah, it's just kind of blows, to be honest. Demikachu is hilarious, but other than that, there's not a whole lot going for Thunder. I think this is just like a... Is it worse than... I think this is worse than Blizzard. Oh, Wind and Fire are strictly better, there's no question between it. I think even, like, Blizzard is better than this, because Blizzard has 10 casts at base, which is just a lot nicer. Thorin has... Thunder does have more hit. Like, 10 more hit is relevant. But it doesn't have the crit. But it does have more might. I don't know. They're both bad. They're both really, really bad. 8 casts at base is just, like, borderline unserviceably good. Bad. 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 I do have water with me. I went to the football yesterday, and as a result, my throat is just gone. Is Thunder going to be 1-3 and engage? I don't know. Blizzard carries over into the late game far, far better. That's probably actually true. Because the crit becomes more useful as the game goes on, and it becomes more reliable with your dex and luck raising and things like that. So, that's actually probably true. Thunder probably does go further into the late game. Oh, sorry, Blizzard probably does go further into the late game. I'm gonna leave Thunder at the bottom. It makes me sad. It basically, like... This, more than anything, more than magic stats, more than Meteor being poop, more than a mediocre Faith spell list, this, more than anything, really is what harms Dorothea the most. Like, this is... just makes her early game so painful to get her to level 5. And you're probably not hitting level 5 until the end of Chapter 3 on her, which is really disappointing. Or you're probably not reaching, like, Monk until the end of Chapter 3 on her, is what I meant to say. Sorry, at the start of Chapter 4. I don't know. Spell sucks. Wind! Wind is the last black magic spell on the list, and I have not pulled up its page. Oops. Well, yeah, I have. I just wasn't clicked on it. It's 4 casts on Commoner. Good question. Sorry if that was ambiguous at all. Yeah, the people with Wind get 6 casts in comparison. Fire gets 5, which is... Like, an extra cast is like an extra kill, which is an extra kill's worth of XP, which is really comfortably solid. So Wind. Wind is the last black magic spell, and it has 2 might, 2 weight, 100 hits, 10 crit, 1-2 range, 12 uses at base, and is available innately on Annette and Hanneman, at the D rank on Ashe, Claude, Cyril, Flame, Linhot, Petra, Seteth, Yuri, and the D+ on Shamir. This is comfortably good. The units that get this have a really easy time reaching level 5 because it's just so reliable. It lacks a bit of punch, but that's fine. It's the early stages of the game. Everything lacks punch. You can easily double with this as well. Even on, like, especially, again, those mid-range chapters that I went over earlier, sort of 6 to 10 range when the enemies are weighed down by steel weapons. You can actually pump out some doubles on even, like, not slow enemies. Which is fairly appreciated. It's also on a decent spread of units. Like, Annette getting this at base is the big one, but Linhot also really appreciates it. It's not bad on Hanneman, it's fine on Flame. Yuri can potentially make good use of this as well. Yuri can actually probably double really consistently with this, because he just has a good speed stat. The only thing I think that puts it below Fire for me is the fact that it isn't innate to a class. Like, not everyone gets access to this by just going into a very desirable class anyway. So I'm going to put it in, like, the top of above average. Maybe it's just the bottom of very good. It is very good. I think Wind is very good. Yeah, Wind is... Yeah, 1 less might for 1 less weight and 10 hit compared to fire. And also some crit, right? Don't you get 10 crit with this as well? Yeah, you do. So you trade in 1 might for 1 weight, 10 hit, and 10 crit. Yeah, it's very good. And an extra 2 uses. Yeah, this is very good. Let's put it here. Let's put it... maybe Thorin should just go above fire. I don't know, these are interchangeable. These could go in any order in this tier. They're all great. But yeah, there's little to complain about with Wind. You're never upset when a character has Wind in their spell list. It's good. It's just very reliable, and it comes with a lot of casts. It can crit. I mean, we saw some great Linhardt crits in the recent stream playthrough, which were really coming in clutch. Okay, so on to Dark Magic. And the first spell we have here is Banshee, or Banshee Theta, as it likes to be stylized. It is a 9 might spell with 9 weight, 75 hit, 5 crit, 1/2 range, 5 uses at base, and when it hits an opponent, it inflicts a -5 movement debuff. So the opponent loses 5 move until the start of their until the start of the next player phase. Only 2 units get this, and it's Happy and Hubert at the C rank. This is no, not there. It's there. It's very good. There's little to complain about with Banshee. It's available really reasonably for what it does at the C rank. Yeah, it coming early is actually really important, because losing 5 move for an enemy then can actually just straight up lock them down or give them like 1 move. If it came at B, you're probably looking at mounted enemies and things like that, so they'd still have like a decent amount of move in the tank, like 2 or 3, which obviously might still leave your mage in danger. This coming so early means you can usually just lock them out. It's Encloser at home, but it comes much earlier than Encloser, although it does have a very limited use base. It's fine. Those 2 units are great, so there's no real complaint about using them for this. It is just comfortably very good. 5 uses at base is also really solid. 9 might is punchy enough for a C rank spell with that effect on it. It's not like it's ripping people apart or anything like that, but 9 might is punchy enough when you have that effect on you as well. It's very good. It's got a ton of utility. It's like a baby Gambit. Yeah, it's a little baby Gambit that can also just kill things. It's good. It's a good spell. It's a very good spell. That's why it's in the very good tier. I think there's just nothing to really complain about with Wind. With Wind? With Banshee. Jesus Christ. Dark Spikes. Dark Spikes is, again, a dark magic spell. It has 13 might, 11 weight, 80 hit, 1/2 range, 3 uses, and it deals bonus damage to cavalry units, so triples its damage against cavalry units, providing they don't have a Lampos shield, which a couple of them do. It's available at the B rank to Lysithea and the A rank to Hubert. It's really, really, really good at killing mounted enemies. So there are a couple of Lampos shields in the game. Gwendol has one, and I think an enemy on Gronda 2 has one. But other than that, they're not mega common. The cavalry null ability or whatever just doesn't exist. It's just really good. It selectively kills enemies that you need them to kill. That is true. There are also a ton of mounted bosses. Like, I did the whole joke in the Lysithea or Hubert breaking down. I can't remember which one it was, where I just listed them all off. But there's like 6 versions of the Death Knight. Sylvain, Ferdinand, Lorenz. A few more on top of that. Lenato, but you're not getting it in time for him. Some others who I can't remember. Leonia Bonite. Yeah. It's somewhere between, like, high above average and low very good. The only thing that really holds it back is, like, 13 might is actually still fairly reasonable against, like, mounted enemies, but it's not doing a whole lot against them, and it's very limited in casts. Felix is there, yeah, Rodrigue. I mean, only having 3 casts of it is partially problematic, but there aren't normally that many mounted enemies on a map. Just having the option to just delete them is nice. It gives you a really easy answer to Chapter 6, which is greatly appreciated. Although you might still need some setup. And it's still worse at killing the Death Knight than some other options like Vengeance, but... it's somewhere between here. The other thing is, like, Hubert has Frozen Lance Horse Slayers, but this is just, like, a higher range, more damage version of that, so... still holds some merit. I don't know. I think Darkspice is just a spell that's available, like... not early, but, like, you can get it pretty early on Lysithea with Mastermind and the B rank. And then just blow things up. 13 Might is actually, like, comfortably okay. For a B rank spell, it's significantly worse on Hubert, but it's, like... it's significantly better on Lysithea. Its hit's okay, yeah, 80 is fine, like, it's... I'd expect a little bit higher from an A rank spell in Hubert's case, but for a B rank spell, this is nuts. Like, for a B rank spell, this is insane. This is easily here. I think for an A rank spell, it's probably closer to these, but I think, like, there's still a case for putting it here, so I'm going to put it in very good. So it's the best one in 3 Hopes by a country mile. Good. It has a cool animation. That doesn't count in its favor here, but it does have a cool animation. I like it. It's not like Sagate, where it's just some little dribbly white drops floating at someone. I don't know. Yeah, I think Darkspice is fine to go in the very good tier. It is very good in a lot of situations. It is a bit situational, but even outside of those situations, it's still fine. Death. Or Death. Or? I don't know how you meant to say that. Death is a 6 might, 8 weight spell with 70 hits, 20 crit, and 1/3 range. It comes with 4 uses and is available at the B rank on Happy, Hubert, and Yuritsa. 1/3 range is very good. It's about all I really have to say. 1/3 range is still very good. It's a little less accurate than Thorin, and I think it hits a bit... Actually, Thorin has like 9 might, so it's a lot less hard-hitting than Thorin, but 1/3 range is the important part, and it has that. It's kind of fine. I'd say it's above average. I don't think it's... is it on the same tier as Thorin? I don't think Thorin's as good as Fire and Wind. I'm moving it back down. I think, like, Thorin is, like, noticeably better than this, but Death is still very, very good. An early 1/3 range option, or early-ish. Actually, it's B rank, isn't it? Not C. It's an okay 1/3 range option. It comes a bit later than Thorin. It's definitely worse than Thorin. Okay, it's less accurate. It comes a fair bit later. Yeah, it's fine. Happy and Hubert really appreciate getting this. Yuritsa also likes it if you choose to make use of it with him. It's okay. The Greek symbol is Gamma? Ah, okay. Did not know that. Thank you. Actual real education in this stream? Holy. Yeah, there's not a whole lot else to say about Death. It's a worse version of Thorin, but Thorin's so good that Death being a worse version of Thorin is still very good. True, Hubert does have another option which we will get onto shortly. Hades. Hades is the hardest hitting spell in the game with 18 might, 16 weight, 65 hits, 10 crit, 1/2 range, 2 uses, and this is available on Edelgard, Happy, and Lysithea. Edelgard doesn't care, but Happy and Lysithea actually appreciate this a lot. 18 might for an A rank spell is heading more towards what I would expect from that end of the spectrum, although I still kind of think it's not hard-hitting enough. The big drawback is 65 hit, which blows. It's not the most reliable, although I guess by that point in the game you could have tools to patch up a 65 hit, but like it's still not great. 2 uses is also very limited. It's punchy. It hits everything for a reasonable amount of damage. it still lacks kill power. It's still not strong enough to kill a lot of enemies. Like, 18 might for an A rank spell is still not enough. Hades and Mega Muses, there you go. There you go, you can have it up there. It's somewhere between fine and above average. It's better than most other A rank reason spells. I think bolting slightly edges it out, but I think and maybe Dark Spikes as well, actually, on Hubert. But by and large, the A rank reason spells aren't very good. I mean, Thimble Vetra, Ragnarok, Agnia's Arrow, like, it's not great competition. I mean, there's a reason I make Happy and Lysithea as Gramaries too, but it's not Hades. That's not the reason I make Happy and Lysithea Gramarye. But yeah, it hits reasonably hard. I still don't think it hits hard enough, and it's got very limited uses and really shaky hit rates. It's okay. I think it's better than Ragnarok. Actually, let's just run a direct comparison on it to Ragnarok. Let's just take a quick look here. So it has 3 more might. Wait, where have I've just lost the tab. There we go. It has 3 more might, 7 more weight, 15 less hit, 5 more crit. Same range, 1 less use. This is more comparable to Ragnarok than I thought it was. It is on better units, I guess. Like, Happy and Lysithea really appreciate getting this, whereas, as we mentioned, Ragnarok's pretty rare. Yeah, I do it for Warp 2s. It is better than Ragnarok. I don't think it's a tier better than Ragnarok. I think it's fine. It's fine for an A-rank spell. I don't think it's it is an above-average A-rank spell, but that's just because the A-rank spells are awful. Yeah, it can sit in fine, and if you think it should be above average, cool. Yeah, like, it got a really big buff for Uncanny Blow. That is a good point. Like, Uncanny Blow access does make Hades quite solid with its increased accuracy, but like, even assuming you're like amping up your accuracy, I still don't think this is anything too special. It gets a minor bump from Lawrence getting it at B, but nothing too major. So Luna. Luna is a very interesting spell. It has 1 might, 7 weight, 65 hit, 1-2 range, 2 uses at base, and it cannot make follow-up attacks, so it can't double, but it also ignores the opponent's resistance, which is really interesting. It's available at the C rank on Lysithea and the B rank on Edelgard. I will be honest, I don't care that Edelgard gets this. This is about Lysithea, and it's really good at killing enemies that have resistance stats, notably bosses, enemy mages, paladins, falconites, things like that. It comes at the C rank. It's taking a while before it's actually better than your other options at that time. In most cases, it might still be better against mages, to be fair, because they do pack a reasonable amount of resistance, but I think this is an above-average spell. It's pretty solid. It packs a lot of kill power later into the game, especially with Lysithea's giant magic stat. In fact, it's probably slightly... I think this is probably here. It scales up really, really well. I'm scared to say this because last time it confused people, but its might is essentially the enemy resistance +1. So the more resistance your enemies have, like, the more damage it's doing in comparison to your other spells. It's just comfortably very good. It is a little shaky on its accuracy. It does get a lot better, like... The fact is a C-rank spell is almost pointless, right? Like, because you're not really getting much use out of it in the early game. It might as well be like a B-rank spell. If you get Uncanny Blow or hit +20, you're fine with it. But also, like... McQueels is such a huge accuracy boost that maybe you don't even need those. For Luna to, like, have a reasonable hit rate, they would definitely secure its accuracy, but, like... I don't know. Maybe that's just me, like, giving McQueels to Lysithea as standard. I don't know, it's very solid. I wish it had a couple more uses or something, but it's okay. It's a very good, not a very good spell, it's not in very good, but it's a good spell. For sure. It's got its use cases and they're fairly common. Being able to kill things that have high resistance with a mage is useful. The thing is, you get McQueel's actually kind of early, because you get it from oil and water. And on most units, yes, you wouldn't be able to use it at that time, but with Mastermind, you can probably shove Lysithea up to being able to use McQueel's pretty early in the game, actually. Because she doesn't need a whole lot. Like, she needs B Faith, B Reason, and then you can just dump into Authority. And then obviously all of that is fueled by... And she has an Authority boon as well, of course. I don't know, I think the fact this specifically comes on Lysithea helps it out a lot. Because Mastermind helps you get things that help it out. But yeah, it's definitely solid. Miasma. Miasma is innate to Happy, Hubert, and Lysithea. And it comes with the ability Miasma Triangle. It is a 5 might, 5 weight spell with 80 hits, 0 crit, 1-2 range, 10 uses. And it's basically the dark magic equivalent of, like, Fire, Wind, Blizzard, and Thunder. It's fine. Having 10 uses is nice. Having 5 might is a little bit punchier than everything else. Triangle is Delta, okay. No, it's Miasma Triangle. Yeah, it's an okay early game spell. It's fine. It's not as bad as Blizzard and Thunder. It hits a little bit harder, and it's not got the usage problems that Thunder has. Nor the accuracy problems that Blizzard has. Well, it does have some accuracy problems, but not to the same degree. It's definitely a little bit unreliable in the early game, but I think it's okay. It's fine. It does the job. I'll throw it in fine because it's fine. The fact that it comes on the Miasma ability is borderline irrelevant. I don't think anyone really... Like, I don't think Dark Mage is particularly a desirable class. And the fact it's on Dark Bishop is silly. Miasma is not a relevant spell by the time you're in Dark Bishop, apart from for, like, just, like, chunking down enemies or something, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's certainly not as good as, like, say, Fire being on the Mage class, because Mage is hyper-desirable because it's just a very good class for the time, and it has the Fiendish Blow ability. I think Miasma is almost a definition of a fine spell. It serves a purpose. It's okay. Maya, or Maya B. It has 3 might, 5 weight, 70 hits, 8 uses, and 1/3 range once again. It is accessible to 1 unit, and 1 unit only. Hubert, at the D+ rank. This is a very, very early access to a 1/3 range option. Now, it's low on might, but it's high on casts. 8 for a 1/3 range? Fairly okay, you're not obsessed about that. It's good. Like, this is good. It's on 1 unit, but, like, Hubert also doesn't necessarily care about the low might. Like, his early magic stat is actually fairly reasonable. He can probably punch with this fairly okay anyway. Because all he would be doing, even if it had, like, say, 6 might or something, is chipping, and he can still chip functionally with this. Its hit is a little on the shaky side, which is disappointing, but you definitely take that trade-off for such an early access to a 1/3 range option. Yeah, this is really good. I think it's better than Death. Its distribution's weird, but... Oh, I forgot to mention, yes, when it hits the target, it inflicts a -5 defense debuff. It's irrelevant, but cool, he gets it. Yeah, I think this is just insane for a D rank spell. D+ rank spell. If it came at, like, C, it'd probably be, like, down here somewhere or something, but, like, for a D+ rank spell, this is nuts. It might even be very good. Honestly, this is so ridiculous for the point in time when you get it. Oh, yeah, I think this is very good. I think it's, like, notably better than Death, just because you get it so early. Like, Death is B rank. Maya B is D+. Like, D+ is so early for a 1/3 range option. Yeah, I think this is comfortably, like, a very good spell, honestly. it doesn't, like, necessarily hold its relevance into the late game super well, but it doesn't need to because it's available super early, so, like... And even then, it still has some uses, like an 8-use 1-3 range option, and then the accuracy issues will also be alleviated later down the line. Hubert starts at D, I do believe. Yeah, let me just double check that for you. Hubert, D3H. Hubert does start at D, yes. Yeah, I hope the poison debuff has, like, use cases and engage too. I hope it's not something that just, like, looks cool but doesn't actually contribute. Fastest 1-3 in the game by far, yeah. Like, you're hitting Maya B for Chapter 2 on Hubert, which is nuts. Having a 1-3 range option for Chapter 2 is insanely good. It also gives Hubert, like... This is a bit of a tangent, but I don't care, I'm going on it anyway. It also really helps Hubert's pathing that it's a D+ option rather than a C rank option, because if it was a C rank option, you'd be kind of torn between pushing for Frozen Lance and this. With this being a D+, you can easily just grab this, then grab Frozen Lance going into Chapter 3, and essentially have a ready-to-go Hubert by the end of Chapter 3, which is kind of insane. It's what lets Hubert set up, like, so quickly. It just makes him so flexible in the early game, and it's part of why I think he's, like, kind of criminally underrated as an early game unit. And Silver's no Hubert is still good. So we have one more dark magic spell to go, and that is Swarm. Swarm is a 4 might, 4 weight, 70 hit, 1-2 range spell with 8 usage at base, and if the attack hits the target, they suffer a -5 speed debuff. It's available at D+ rank to Happy and Lysithea. This is not as good as Maya B for a D+ rank spell. It has less might and accuracy than Miasma, which is fairly bad. The buff is kind of okay. It definitely has its use cases. There are times when lowering an enemy's speed is fairly solid. Especially if, like, you then need to take an attack from them on the enemy phase or something like that. But by and large, this is actually pretty mid. I don't know why its casts are, like, only at 8. I feel like this could definitely have more and still be fine. It's just really weak and really... Like, it's got the same might as Fire, but without the hit. And its debuff is okay, but it's not worth 20 hit. It doesn't have the same might of Fire at all. Fire has 3. Has 1 more might of Fire with 20 less hit. It's not worth it. Wait, 1 more might than Fire with 20 less hit. Is that not Blizzard? Are we back on Blizzard? Oh no, Blizzard has the same might as Fire. Okay, fine. I was scared for a second. I don't think this is bad. I just don't think it's good. I think it's a worse version of Miasma. We're going to put it behind Miasma. The debuffs do work on monsters, which is cool. It's a relatively mediocre D+ rank option. It's fine. It's got its use cases. They're few and far between, but it does have them, which is nice. It's better than it being useless. Maybe that is a good point, Gamer. Maybe they were just a little bit scared that speed debuffs were going to be too good. It's hard to say, especially because the game was, like, obviously designed without maddening in mind. Yeah, I don't know. It's early extra casts on Lysithea and Happy, which is actually quite nice. I think the effect is okay. I don't think it's great myself. I think it's, like, serviceable. It's got its use cases. But it's really weak and really inaccurate for no real reason. It is nice, though, that there is an extra early D+ rank option to give, like, Lysithea and Happy some early casts. True, everything is overpowered in hard mode. In fact, no. Some of the things that are really good in Maddening aren't as good in hard mode. Like, Vengeance is not as good in hard mode because it's really hard to take damage. So, onto the Faith spells, and we start off with Abraxas. This has 14 might, 13 weight, 90 hit, 5 crit, 1-2 range, 2 uses, and is available at the A rank on Annette, Constance, and Lysithea. This is not particularly good. It's a punchy A rank spell that isn't particularly punchy. Like, it has less damage than Ragnarok. It's also, like, I get that they wanted, like, an offensive A-rank spell to, you know, let units contribute that go down Faith, like, from an offensive perspective. It's just not very good. I don't know why it's limited to 2 uses either. I feel like they could have given it, like, some benefit by giving, like, say, 5 uses or something, right? Like, it's a punchy spell, it's not as punchy, but it's also more accurate and it's got a lot of hit. Like, that would be cool, but it's just kind of meh. I mean, it is slightly more accurate than Ragnarok, I suppose, but, like, it's... I don't know. I think this is really out of the way. Especially because, like, with an A-rank Reason spell, even if you don't want the spell, right? Let's say you're not bothered about Ragnarok. If you're using Reason, you still want to raise your Reason to get the prowesses. With Faith, if you're not using Abraxas, you aren't really using offensive magic. Like, what? You're using, like, Seraphim, Nosferatu, or Aura? Kinda who cares? They're just... like, you're not really ever using Faith prowess on anyone. So... there's not any reason, like, you won't stumble into this like you will with the Reason spells, I suppose is what I'm saying. Like, you won't just accidentally trip into this and get it. If you aren't pushing for Abraxas, you probably won't get Abraxas. Also, the units who are on all have way better things to invest into, especially Constance and Lysithea. They have a lot more. I guess Lysithea can get it kind of quick, actually, with Mastermind, and... yeah, she gets a lot of Faith value early on. But still, this is fairly mid. Actually, this is worse than Excalibur. Well, it's true, there is a certain W spell that is really good, but, you know... what are you going to do against the power of Ward? Aura, otherwise known as the spell everyone forgets exists. This is a Faith spell once again, with 12 might, 12 weight, 70 hit, 20 crit, 1-2 range, and 3 uses as standard. The units who have access to this are Byleth, Dimitri, Marianne, and Yuri at the A rank. This is poop. This is not good. Don't use it. It's an A rank spell that has nowhere near the requirements to be an A rank spell. It doesn't have the might. It has really shaky accuracy. It's heavy. It only has 3 casts. All it has going for it is 20 crit. And that is actually a good point. Felix's dad will kill himself with it repeatedly. It's only 1-2 range. Nothing about this should make it an A-rank spell. And then the units it's on, apart from, like, maybe Marianne, they have no reason to go to A-Faith. Like, maybe Yuri is a stretch, but none of these units really want this. All of them have way better kill tools. This is bad. Yeah, this... even if you get this, I don't think you want to click it. Like, honestly, 12 might, 70 hit? Like, you're telling me an A-rank spell is 12 might, 70 hit? Nah. Is that less hit than bolting? Or is bolting 75? No, bolting is 65. Okay. So it has the same might as bolting, 5 more hit, 5 more crit, but it doesn't have the insane range. Like, this is awful. Get rid of it. Didn't Mercedes have Aura in Crimson Flower? I can't remember. I'll be honest with you. I think even for Yuri, this is bad. I think even for Marianne, this is bad, I'll be honest with you. I don't think there's any need for either of those characters to go to A-Faith, like, ever. So they won't, like, stumble into it, and this isn't good enough to push for A-rank to get. I mean, even Thimble Vetra is better than this. Like, Thimble Vetra... I would much rather click Thimble Vetra than this. Actually, would I? It has more crit, but it's actually still equally as bad. Maybe Thimble Vetra should move down. Just get both of these A-rank spells that are just garbage out of here. These 20 might, or 12 might, 20 crit, terrible accuracy spells. Just get rid of them. Where's it gone? Don't get rid of them that hard. Just they're awful. Thimble Veteran and Aura are bad. Don't use them. Timotheus Magikarp does help Marianne with a crit build, thanks to her Reason spells having crit. True. Doesn't mean using a grounded Marianne, though, which sounds really sad. Although, I guess you might want to do that anyway if you're using, like, Nouvelles on, Constants or something. Maybe. I suppose you could go, if I was going for a grounded Marianne, I'm not gonna lie, I'd just shove her in Paladin. But I guess you can pivot around, right? You can go Holy Knight, you can go Dark Knight. Then you can crit, like, 3 enemies per map. Yay. The joy. Woo. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think either of those spells are good. I'm not a big fan. I just think it's okay to have an extra spell to use even when they are bad. The thing is, if you're not going to stumble into it, it's not an extra spell. Like, it's something you've actively gone out of your way to get. Like, something like, say, Bolganon, for example, you'll probably just fall into this. Even something like, say, Bolting on Constance, you'll probably just fall into because of ranks, but, like, I don't think there is ever any reason. In fact, yeah, I'll put Aura behind Thimble Vetra for that reason. This you could fall into. There's never any reason to get Aura. Like, ever. I don't think you ever need A Faith on any of these units. We're only considering the spells from a player perspective, not, like, enemies or green units. Although, you are true, if I was factoring in Rodrigue, it would be significantly worse. Oh god. Okay, we're going to talk about Fortify. Anyone who gets overly angry about my opinion on Fortify, express it civilly. Otherwise, I will be upset. People get very passionate about Fortify. Fortify's bad. Like, really bad. Fortify is... I should probably explain what it does first. Fortify has 15 might. It is a healing spell. It heals 1 to your... No, sorry, its range is 1 to your magic divided by 4. It has 2 uses at base. And it's available at the A rank on Flayn and Mercedes. This is terrible. I'm not sure it's as bad as Aura, but it's still fairly awful. So the big issues with Fortify, there are many, but we can... Well, where do we even start? First of all, it's an A rank spell and all it does is heal people. That's really low impact. You don't need healing in 3 houses. Your enemy phase units all either want to take damage or don't take damage. If you do want to heal a unit, there's very rarely a case where you will want to heal more than one. And healing Fortify means you have to position your units who don't want healing, like your Vengeance users, your Wrath Vantage users, outside of that range. Every single mage has access to heal. Every single unit has access to heal. You can... you can heal anybody with anyone who has access to magic. You don't need a spell to heal everyone at once. This is just unnecessary. There's never any reason to click this. There's probably some use cases to click it. Like, I think even for a casual playthrough, this is, like... If you're using this and you have, like, Vengeance users, Wrath Vantage users, things like that, I think it's actively bad. If you're using this and you don't have those things, I think it's useless. Like... I don't think there is ever a situation where you need to heal multiple... Like, not multiple units at once, but more units than you can heal with your individual mages. If you're not using low health builds, it can be useful. I don't see why you wouldn't be using low health builds, because both on player and enemy phase, they're, like, ridiculously strong. And even then, I still don't think it's useful. Like, who are you needing to heal so free? Like, because if your player phase units take damage, it doesn't matter. Your player phase units shouldn't be taking damage often enough so you can put off healing them. You don't need to heal them immediately. If your enemy phase units take damage, what are you doing with your enemy phase units? Like, protection tanks shouldn't take damage, dodge tanks shouldn't take damage, Wrath Vantage users want to. Like, you can just use heal or physic. Or even, like, I'd rather click Resonant White Magic than this. Like, it just doesn't help. Ever. Like, I really just don't see use cases for this thing at any point. Like, if your units aren't built to enemy phase, the thing is, they're probably dying on the enemy phase. It helps to not have to use every mage of your team to heal up other units, but that's the thing, how many units need healing? Like, the only units that need healing are the units that need to take attacks. Being at low health doesn't matter if you don't need to take attacks. Like, for the majority of your team, being at low health is either A, beneficial, or B, irrelevant. Unless you have to take a hit, and that hit is going to do damage to you. Like, your dodge tanks don't care if they're low health. They're dodging everything. If your dodge tank happens to eat a hit and their battalion survives so you don't pulse it, you don't care, they're dodging everything. Like, you can heal them just to top them up to get some extra XP or whatever, or just for safety's reasons, but it's not necessary. You don't need to heal them. The same goes for your protection tanks as well. Like, even if they manage to take, like 4 damage or something like that, like, you don't care, you just leave it on them. Because most things aren't damaging them. I think, like, the most telling thing about Fortify is that when I don't have Fortify, I've never been in a situation where I'm like, wow, Fortify would really help me out right now. I genuinely don't think that's a situation, like, you ever really experience. But, like, let's say you've got, like, say, a player-phase Paladin Sylvain who's just running around swift striking things, right? And he takes a hit. He's low on health. You don't need to heal that. It doesn't matter. It's whatever. And, like, somebody said it earlier, but Fortify would be really good before you got Fortify, and I actually agree with that. If this was available at, like, Chapter 2, this would actually see reasonable levels of use. But it doesn't come at that point. You're getting this around, like, Chapter 8, and by that point, this thing's usefulness has far outrun its course. Also, again, like, I haven't mentioned this, but it's got the same aura problems of that, like, there is never a reason to reach a faith. So, you're not stumbling into this, you're not, like, picking this up by accident. You have to actively go for this. And I don't think it's ever worth that. Because it's healing. I think healing is actively the worst effect that spells provide, though. Not strictly, like, across the board, like, heal and physic are useful spells, but, like, a spell doing damage is better than a spell needing healing, because I will always need damage. I don't think you always need healing. Yeah, like, the Flame getting Darkfire makes this, like, slightly better, but, like, it's still not good. Like, I just don't think you... Even if you got this, I don't think you want to click it, and I don't think there's ever any reason to really get it. Still think Aura is worse? They're both bad. In general, the A-rank Faith spells would have to be incredibly good to warrant not being down here, and these two aren't. Like, A-rank Faith is out of the way, which, like, you will never hit this passively. You're not going Holy Knight, it's bad. You won't stumble into A-rank Faith. Even if you're going Grammary, like, you probably gamble the Faith because you're getting A-rank Reason, because you want the paralysis for the Reason spells. So, yeah, Fortify and Aura are essentially have very similar issues. I think Aura is a lot more clickable than Fortify. I don't know. I really just don't see situations where you would ever click Fortify. And, again, like the other thing, it has 2 uses, and I don't think anyone cares, because when are you clicking this more than... I can't imagine clicking it once a map, let alone... Like, there might be, like, the odd occasion, but there's surely no one needs to click this more than twice a map. It's... Like, not that you couldn't click it, let me make that clear. You could click it, and you could heal people up. But if that HP isn't doing anything, it's just unnecessary. It's just healing for the sake of it. Which is useful at some stages of the game, but you don't want an A-rank spell to just be healing for the sake of it. Healing for the sake of it is the same as warding for the sake of it, and if ward was an A-rank spell, it would also be bad. I don't know. I just think this is largely useless. I wish it was better. I wish Fortify had more uses, but like even if low health builds didn't exist in the game, I still think Fortify would be like around here. Because it's not only that like it can have negative impacts, it just very rarely has positive ones. I think on Crimson Flower, you definitely don't need help rushing through a map. You have Raging Storm. I think you can rush through maps a lot easier than... In fact, I think if you're using Fortify, you're possibly going slower than you need to be. Oops. Accidentally scrolled down. What is Mercedes's B-rank Faith spell? I'm trying to figure out if you'd even get close to this on Mercedes. Restore? That's actually reasonably okay. Okay. Yeah, so you might hit B rank on both Flame and Mercedes. You could potentially push up from there. It's just not good. It just isn't good. I'm sorry. If Fortify was a C rank spell, it would still probably be bad. But it would have a lot more uses in the early game. It'd probably still be worse than Physic. Like, assuming it kept its 2 uses, it would still be worse than Physic. Physic is a lot more clickable. Okay, let's stop talking about Fortify. Heal. Heal is an 8 might spell with 10 uses. It has 100% accuracy. It heals your allies. It heals 8 plus a third of the healer's magic to 1 ally. An adjacent ally, that has to be said. It can only be used from 1 range. And it is available to every single unit at D rank Faith. It also comes with the heal ability, however that's completely irrelevant apart from the fact that it guesses the heal ability does double its uses. It's good. Every unit getting heal at D rank is just a very comfortable way for every mage to gain XP. On the occasions you need healing, you can actually heal people functionally with it. And yeah, you just have this so much en masse, it's so clickable. It has 10 uses, which is really nice. 5 extra magic casts on, like, the Chapter 1 is really cool. Same with Chapter 2, because you won't be in the classes by then. Heal's good. I don't actually know where to put heal. I'm not gonna lie. Like, its impact is relatively low, but it's so frequent. And it's so readily available. Does it have to go in very good? Like, is it possible it's not in this tier? I don't think so. I think the most beneficial thing about healing, just to compare it to Fortify, is you have it when you need healing. I don't think it can go any lower than this tier. It's a really weird one to judge. Because you will use it a lot in a playthrough just to get extra XP. And sometimes it also heals in a way that's helpful. It's cool. It's very boring. It counters Ferdinand getting HP level ups. True. True. Yeah, it's a super standard spell, but it's so accessible. You get it in the early, like, super early on. Anyone can access this for Chapter 2, which is really nice. Cool. It's got its benefits. It's also really boring, but what are you gonna say? Healing being globally available is, like, one of the things that really breaks, like, Three Houses wide open. Something I didn't mention with Fortify that I feel like I probably should is something else that really harms it, specifically in this game, is the fact that the weapon triangle, or like weapon locking, doesn't exist. Anyone is able to attack from any range. Which means like the amount of damage your player phase units take is entirely up to you. So in, say, past titles, if you wanted to use, say, Joshua in Sacred Stones, he's locked to swords, he has to attack from one range, he will inevitably end up taking some damage. That isn't the case for your player phase units in Three Houses. Like, even before you get your Brave Combat Arts, if you're chipping down an enemy, you don't have to take counterattack damage. Basically, ever. You almost always have a way to avoid taking counterattack damage, whether that's curved shot, going from one range against archers, two range against melee enemies, which again just further just nullifies how useful Fortify is and how useful healing is in general. Yeah, I don't know. Healing's just not super valuable in Three Houses. That being said, it being globally available at the D rank, still very nice. Nosferatu. Nosferatu is a 1 might spell with 8 weight, 80 hit, 1-2 range, and 12 uses. It restores half the damage dealt to the user's HP, and I just scrolled down by accident. Nosferatu is available to everybody at D plus Faith, and it comes innately on a smattering of units too. Flame, Linhardt, Manuela, Marianne, Rhea. This is fairly atrocious. As an actual spell, like, the best use of Nosferatu is you can sometimes click it to not have to use a cast of a better spell. Because it's so available, like, everyone gets it very early in their Faith tree. And that's why I think it's fine. Like, it has a use case. Other than that, it's relatively poor. You can't really Nos tank consistently in this game. You can do it in instances, I suppose, but, like, I don't think it's, like, a consistent thing you can do throughout the entire game. But by and large, this is very rarely... Like, I don't think you ever really go into a situation where Nosferatu is the desirable spell to be using. It's also needlessly heavy. Which really, like... 8 weight isn't, like, obscene or anything, but, like, it makes it needlessly hard for your Nos tanks to potentially not get doubled. Let alone double themselves. It's got a decent amount of uses, I guess, at 12. Like, extra casts, especially, again, on the early chapters, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, can be very beneficial. It's weird, because I don't think this spell is anything great, but I also think it's really bad that Mercedes doesn't have it for Chapter 1. Like, in early game, like, having an accessible D rank spell to just, or D plus rank spell on everybody to just click is cool. Like, for Chapter 1, Chapter 2. Like, the extra early game casts are just valuable. I don't know, I think it's fine. It's close to being poor. But I think it's, like, just about useful enough. Especially, again, because, like I say, sometimes in the late game it just saves you casts of better spells. Because, again, everyone stumbles into this. It's almost like the opposite problem of Aura, right? In Aura, where you will never stumble into this spell, it really hurts it. Whereas with Nosferatu, where everyone will stumble into this spell, or any mage, I should say, will stumble into it and just end up with it, it means it will inevitably have some use cases throughout the playthrough. Especially when it's available so early. Why doesn't Gilbert have a Faith boon? It would be useless but funny. Because he wasn't faithful to his daughter and ran away. That was a terrible attempt at a follow-up to that, but never mind. Physic. Physic is an 8 might healing spell with 100 accuracy to the shock of nobody. It is a 1 range... Shall I just start again? Physic has 8 might, it's a healing spell, it's obviously guaranteed to hit, and its range is 1 to half of the user's magic, or half of the caster's magic, I should say. It is available to a whole ton of units. Those are Ash, Bernadetta, Dorothea, Happy, Ignatz, Ingrid, Leonie, Linhardt, Marianne, Mercedes, Shamir, and Sylvain at the C rank. A couple of those probably aren't overly relevant. Sylvain, Shamir, Leonie... Ignatz probably aren't seeing this too much. Ingrid, Bernadetta maybe too, but there's enough relevant units who get this. Dorothea, very relevant. Happy. Marianne, Linhardt. Mercedes. All really appreciate getting this. It's a good long-range healing spell. It's good. It lets you heal from far away. Being at the C rank means that Linhardt and Marianne can get it for Chapter 2, which is just more casts. Ignace is relevant. Ignace is a relevant character, I just mean in the context of Physic. Just to clear that up. But yeah, having more casts for Chapter 2 is very nice. Healing from a distance is better than healing from close range. It basically completely supplants heal in a lot of cases. It's just a better version of it. It's good. Yeah. Does heal need to move up? Because I feel like Physic needs to move up as well. Heal and Physic are just both accessible and they're useful enough throughout the playthrough. They're available very early. Again, you can get Physic on Chapter 2 for some characters, Chapter 3 for others. They're just so present throughout the playthrough and so comfortably very good that they will undoubtedly be clicked a lot. It's a really easy... So actually, maybe Physic should move up. Like, this far up. Because it's such an easy source of EXP for mages that have it. And it actually has, like, a lot of practical what's the word? Applications. It has a lot of practical It has a lot of practical applications, unlike Ward, which is mainly just used for gathering EXP. Ignoring their low movement is actually a very good point. Like, one of the biggest issues with heal is your mages are typically locked to 4 to 5 move. Outside of a couple of classes, Darkfly, Valkyrie, Dark Knight, etc. But particularly for the early game, which can make it hard to keep up with your Cavaliers, your Pegasus Knights, even your Archers, because they have less move than your Archers. So, Physic, like, just basically working around that is comfortably very good. It's also, like, just nicely present. I think S for Physic is actually probably fair. I don't know, healing definitely, like, falls off at a certain point in the game, but before that point, it's definitely valuable. I don't know. The thing with Physic is it's just so clickable. Like, if you go into a map with, like, 20 casts of Physic, you can use them all, even if they aren't all useful, just to get so much extra EXP. Like, across your team, obviously, you can't have 50 casts of Physic on, or 20 casts of Physic on one unit. It's only a 5-use spell, but... Physic falls off the least due to the extra range. Yeah, and the fact it's not AoE is definitely helpful for it. And again, like, units, they might not necessarily stumble into Physic. Like, some units might just go Faith just to get Physic, like Marianne if you don't care about Silence, or even Mercedes, potentially if you don't care about Restore. But it's such low investment that you don't have to really try to get it. Physic gets pretty underwhelming in the mid to late game without being in Bishop or having a heal staff. I don't really think that's the case. Like, it doesn't necessarily scale great, I agree with that, but I also don't think you need it to. Also, you almost definitely have a heal staff. You get a heal staff on Chapter 6. I definitely agree it falls off later, but I don't think it gets underwhelming at any point. It just, you don't need to heal as much late in the game. Like, past, like, Chapter, like, 6 or 7, you just stop healing as much. But you can still click this on basically every turn with a mage who has it, and they will just fly ahead of everyone. Like, it's similar to Ward in that sense. Like, it's just nice to have a constant source of EXP for mages. And the healing as well is useful, which is cool. Oh, something just fell over. Don't know what it was. Recover. Recover is a 30 might healing spell with 5 uses. It's only 1 range, unlike some of the others we've just discussed. And it heals 30 HP plus a third of the healer's magic to 1 adjacent ally. It is available to Alois, Annette, Byleth, Caspar, Catherine, Claude, Cyril, Dadu, Dimitri, Edelgard, Felix, Hanneman, Hilda, Hubert, Lawrence, Raphael, Seteth, and Yuri at the C rank of Faith. Okay. I agree this is the finest spell of all. There is so few situations where I feel this is necessary. But it's not harmful either, it's just a C-rank spell with 30 might and 100 hit? That's broken. True. Yeah, this is like the definition of fine. I will say that I think every single unit that gets Recover would rather have Physic. I don't think there's any exception. I think every single unit that gets this spell would rather have Physic. Physic is a lot more clickable because of the range, and you don't have to worry about keeping up with your party. I don't know. Just go above Nosferatu. It's fine. It's a big heal. Like, yeah, it's never a bad thing, I agree. Sometimes you just want a bigger heal. It's really boring. There's not much else to say about it, really. It's just, you can heal things for a lot of HP. Cool. I don't think there's anything really else to say about Recover. It heals a lot of HP. I don't think that's super relevant very often. I don't think there's many situations where you need to heal like 45 HP or something ridiculous. And if you do, you normally have a bunch of mages just dotted around who can do that for you. See, I just disagree with, like, the idea that Physic gets underwhelming in the mid-late game. I've never had any trouble healing with Physic. Personally, like, I don't think I've ever found Restore doesn't heal, or sorry, Physic doesn't heal as much as I need to. I guess they're probably all, like, isolated situations, but those would be few and far between. And even then, like, you have a lot of methods of healing in Physic in 3 houses. You could just heal with someone else, use a vulnerary. Making your mages out of units with actual magic stats might help. Yeah, I don't know. Recover probably, like, has reasonable applications, but I can't think of, like, any specific situations where I'm really glad I have Recover, but I don't doubt they exist because it's a standard enough procedure to want to heal a single unit for a lot of HP. Like, there probably are situations where it could have saved me a use of another unit or things like that. I actually think it's kind of nice that some units who, like, stumble into magic-based classes can actually get this too, because they won't heal as much. And it still gives them, like, a very comfortable way of healing. Byleth is the one who really springs to mind with Enlightened one. You can click Recover and still heal a lot of HP, despite his magic stat being relatively poor. Lauren's potentially as well. Yuri, perhaps. You know, there are Catherine, maybe even. Just proc the Crest of Sethleen more. It's a skill issue, honestly. True. You just need to Divine Pulse and proc your Crest of Sethleen, it's fine. Rescue! Rescue is a spell that allows you to teleport an ally that is within a distance of 1 to a quarter of your magic towards you. They move from wherever they currently were to an adjacent tile to you. It has 3 uses. And it is available to Anna, Constance, and Flayn at B Faith, and A Faith to Bernadetta. We're just going to put Rescue in the S tier, because that's where Rescue belongs. It's better than Physic. Rescue is really comfortably very, very, very good. So there are obvious comparisons with a certain other very good spell, Warp, which we will get into shortly. But I think Rescue does have some notable advantages. It's a little bit more flexible on the defensive end. And also the fact it comes on B on, like, a nice smattering of units. Constance and Flame make absolutely great use of this. Anna is actually reasonably okay with it. Like, access to Rescue is never a bad thing. I know Rengor's done some interesting stuff with Holy Knight Bernadetta. I'm still not convinced, but I can see where the usefulness comes from, especially with Bernie also getting Physic. She gets a very solid spell list. You can obviously use this very offensively as well. dive forward, rescue a unit in like you would do with Warp. Although it does leave your mage in a spot of bother if you're unable to deal with threats, is a really good spell. Like, yes, why does this spell get to have 3 uses is a very good question. Like, Warp only having 1 use at base means that you're almost definitely going Bishop or Gramarye, because you want more than 1 Warp, assuming standard play. But if you're going into, like, if you want to make use of Rescue, 3 casts is almost fine. You don't necessarily need, like, Bishop or Gramarye to double that. Like, 6 isn't really necessary. You can only get what you want done with 3. So you're free to go into something like Darkflyer, or Valkyrie, or Holy Knight, or Dark Knight, or anything, and just make use of this a lot more. Rescue is more versatile, but Warp can be more impactful. I think that's probably a fair assessment. That being said, the one thing I will say is, like, I think Warp is a lot more clickable. I think there are a lot of situations where Warp is really good. It's because Rescue is designed to be used defensively more than offensively. True, it just does have very good offensive applications too. It's a really good spell. It's very hard to fault. I think there's a gulf between Rescue and Physic. Like, I'm almost tempted to move Physic back down to here. I think Rescue's so much better. Like, a unit having Rescue is, like, enough for them to be comfortably good on their own right. As long as they have, like, okay access to it and the classes that make use of it. Darkflyer mainly helps a lot. Yeah, you'd have to go really far out of your way to need 6 Rescues, I agree. But yeah, 3 casts at base is super good. I think I'm going to keep Physic in very good tier. Physic is very good. It's between the two. I think it's probably better than these. I think it's closer to Fire, Wind, and Thorin than it is to Rescue, personally. I think Rescue's kind of nuts. I don't know. It's a really, really useful spell, and having it is just such a huge benefit to your team. Restore! Restore is actually really interesting. It's something I didn't value too highly until quite recently, when I've started using it a lot more and think it's actually pretty solid. It basically cures the status effect for all allies in an affected area, which is 1 to 1/4 of your magic. A status effect is essentially being rattled, being poisoned, something like that. Being silenced. So you can basically use it to get rid of debuffs, essentially. It's really useful for not having to play around gambits. Because the obvious answer is, well, just stay out of the range of gambits, you know? If the gambit's going to be a problem, just don't go into the range of the gambits. But being able to go into the range of the gambits lets you play a lot more aggressively, make a lot more plays, and set yourself up in a much better way, and you can just shrug off the gambit. It can also sometimes be really beneficial to bait an enemy into gambiting rather than attacking you directly. Just to either consume a use of it, or just to not have them actually attack you, which can sometimes be more threatening, so I've started really enjoying use of Restore, I'm not going to lie. I think it's got some quite interesting applications that can serve quite a lot of use. It's available to Flame innately, the C rank to Yuritsa and Petra, who I didn't actually know got it, the B rank to Felix, Ferdinand, Leone, Linhardt, and Mercedes, and B+ to Balthus. Flame, Linhardt, and Mercedes are the big ones who get this. And it's just kind of good. I think, like, something that helps it out quite a lot is, like, Flame, Linhardt, and Mercedes are units who usually are quite happy to click this. Flame has Rescue and Linhardt has Warp, but outside of those spells, you're never normally too sad to use a use of, like, Linhardt or Flame to further enhance the playmaking ability. Yes, they did make it AoE in it. So, I agree most of the time you're only clicking it for 1 unit until you start playing around it, right? Once you know you can click Restore to just shrug off gambits, you can stack 4 units in the face of an Assault Troop and not care, because you're just going to click Restore and get rid of it. Obviously, Battalion Endurance and things like that can factor into it, but by and large, it's never normally too bad to just let your units eat a gambit and then just restore it away to allow you to play more aggressively and set up in a more beneficial offensive position. That being said, its use cases are still situational. You're not going to be using this like every map or anything like that. But it's a really interesting spell. I quite enjoy it. I don't think it's better than Cutting Gale or Sagate, but I think it's comfortably above average. The thing that really helps it is, like, I wouldn't say units get it early, but they get it early enough to where it's definitely worth pushing for. The B rank isn't too out of the way for Linhardt and Mercedes. But yeah, on the whole, like, I think it's a spell that, like, if you don't play around it, it's relatively forgettable. But when you actually start, like, factoring it into your play, in a similar sense to rescue, I guess, in a way, like, being able to rescue units defensively is nice, but when you start using offensive rescues, it gets a lot better. I think a similar thing's true of restore. Like, offensive restore uses are really fun. Does it actually affect the unit itself? I actually either wasn't aware of that or didn't remember it. Although did we utilize that at some point on the recent stream playthrough on, like, the throne room chapter with Edelgard? I don't remember. Just had vague flashbacks to using something similar there, but I don't know. I think Restore's, like, a really interesting spell. I think it's definitely got a lot more value than it might necessarily be given. Also, the first Faith spell in above average. They've occupied every other tier. Seraphim. Seraphim is an offensive Faith spell with 8 might, 10 weight, 75 hit, 5 crit, 1/2 range, and 8 uses by default. It also deals bonus damage to monster units, meaning it triples its damage against them, and it breaks a shot of their or a square of their barrier in a single hit. So if you hit a full health barrier with Seraphim, the barrier is broken. Very useful effect. It is available at the C rank Faith to Lysithea, C+ to Balthus, and B rank to Edelgard, Happy, Ingrid, and Sylvain. This is good. It's effective damage against enemies with a ton of HP is very nice. Breaking a barrier in a single hit is very nice. It can save you gambits or things like that, or multiple attacks. Or free up that spot to attack with another unit who can kill it off. Also, like, yeah, that's a good point. Like, 8 mites is, for a C-rank Faith spell, is not horrible. Although 75 hits a bit shaky, but, like, it can be serviceable against standard enemies. It's good. Breaking barriers in a single hit is nice. The units who get it at B rank as well, with the exception of Happy, like, Edelgard, Ingrid, and Sylvain, you don't really care. But C rank on Lysithea, super valuable. Really, really nice. Just lets her just blow up monsters with her insane magic stat. It's a good spell. I think I'm going to put it in above average. I don't think it quite creeps its way into very good, purely because monsters are weird. It could go a little higher, maybe. No, I think it's probably about there. Being able to, like, blow up barriers and just nuke monsters is nice. It's just not super useful all the time. I don't know. I wish it had, like... I mean, I think if you're going Dancer, you click Dance every turn. I don't think Dancers want to ever click anything that isn't Dance. Rarely. But yeah, Seraphim's fine. Being able to chunk out, like, squishier units is a nice little bonus. Thyrsus plus Seraphim is a very convenient barrier break. That is true. Like, being able to break a barrier without being adjacent to the monster is actually really valuable. Because then you're not occupying spots that your other units will want to attack the monster from. So yeah, it is actually really nice. Yeah, the extended range for not getting counterattacked, also very true. So, Silence. Silence is a Faith spell, which has 100 hits, 3 to 10 range, and 3 uses at base. It inflicts the silent status on the target, so basically it means that they can't use spells. It has a really weird accuracy calculation, which I don't care about. And it is available at the B rank to B rank Faith to Manuela, Marianne, and Yuri, and A Faith to Claude. Marianne and Yuri are the big recipients of this. Manuela, I guess, also benefits too. It's cool. It's not very consistently useful. It's definitely a few and far between spell, but it's fine. It stops mages killing you. There are definitely use cases for this. especially with, like, mage reinforcements, which are weirdly common in the early game. Chapter 4 and 5 both have them. Being able to just silence one of those mages and then you can worry about killing them a turn later is just really nice. Manuela can make some use of it on oil and water as well, just off the top of my head. But yeah, you can use it to shut down problematic mages, and that's cool. Siege tomes, obviously, as well. Useful. It's good. It's got a really big range. It also applies things like seal defense and things like that, which are like seal spells. And I think it applies poison strike as well, if I remember rightly, which is really funny. But other than that, I don't think it's doing a whole ton. It's got its use cases. They're not super common. I'd probably rank it similar to Recover, honestly. Like, its use cases are there, but I don't think you're ever like, yay, silence. Like, you know, it's fine. I think even if it misses, yeah, it still silences. Okay, Costabel just said it as I was in the process of doing so. Even if it misses, it hits. I believe that is true, yes. Yeah, that is true. It would be more interesting to do that if you, if they weren't all one-round KOs, I agree. No, we haven't ranked Warp yet. It's okay, Prega, it's okay. Don't worry, don't panic. So, on to the second to last spell, and we have Ward, which doesn't have its description on the wiki, which is annoying, but never mind. Ward has 100 hits. It's of course... Why did I even say that? Ward is basically a spell which gives an adjacent ally 7 resistance, and the buff reduces by 1 point of resistance each turn. It works in a similar way to Pure Waters. You can basically use it to give a big pile of resistance to an adjacent ally. It has 5 uses at base. Now let's get into its own real, true usage. Ward lets any mage who have it get a ton of experience for free. You don't even need your ally to have taken damage. You can just throw this on your allies and you get a big injection of XP. Each map, you basically have something to do with your Ward mages every single turn. It is available innately to Manuela, at C Faith to Anna, Constance, Ferdinand, and Gilbert, and B Faith to Hanneman, Ignatz, and Lawrence. Constance adores this because she can just inject herself with a ton of EXP. There is a question to be, like, raised about how much a unit who is, like, using Ward is actually contributing to your team, but you can be super happy with this one. Like, it can help you get your units ahead to be able to actually contribute. This would be so useful if you needed to play the enemy phase conventionally. Yeah, I mean, like, it's essentially this game's version of the barrier stuff, right, from past games, and yeah, it's definitely got its values, for sure. I think even, like, in this game, it can still have, like, practical applications, but, like, by and large, it's an XP dump. I think I've actually, like, we got some actual real Ward uses in the most recent stream playthrough, right? But, like, it's few and far between, and that was not a standard playthrough. I think in older FE games, like, Barrier definitely has a lot more practical uses. Like, Barrier is super valuable, like, this is coming from a recent playthrough I've done, but Barrier is super valuable in Genesis on FE7, for example. I think its practical uses definitely are amplified in other games. But I don't really know where to rank it. It's a really weird spell. I don't know. It's free XP. See Faith to Constance? I mean, I'm on board for this, I just don't know where I'd go. Its actual practical effect is borderline useless. You'll get the occasional benefit from it, but it's not great. Let's just put it behind silence and move on with our day. I don't think it's a massive world changer where Ward ends up. It's got its uses. They're not the most practical affairs, but they're fun, and they help your units do other practical things. That's okay, gamer. No need to apologise. So, we have one spell left, and one tier that has nothing in it. Does anybody want to take any guesses of where this last spell is going? You do not get a prize for winning. Yep, Warp is going here. You are exactly correct. No, Warp is going in the S+ tier. I say as I put it in the wrong one. For those of you who don't know, Warp is a spell that lets you teleport an adjacent ally to a range which is within 1 tile to a quarter of the caster's magic stat. It is available to Lysithea at the B rank, and Happy, Linhardt, and Manuela at the A rank. It is nuts. It has 1 cast at default, and it's insane. This is by far the best spell in the game in my mind. It lets you basically click on your strongest unit and puts them where you want them to be. There is basically no map where this doesn't just have a ton of practical applications. It's ridiculous. Like, getting access to this thing is basically like unlocking easy mode for the game. Almost every map can be one-turned with the assistance of this spell. You can trivialize basically any challenge the game throws at you by using Warp. It's just nuts. Unlock a 1/3 range Warp. Yeah, Manuela's an interesting one with it, because I agree her Warp's range is, like, shockingly bad. But the thing is, Manuela, literally, you can just leave her on Faith for the entire game. Like, from when you get her. And then when your roster expands, or not your roster, your deployments expand at the end of the game, and you go up to, like, 11 or 12 units, you can just throw in Manuela and get an extra Warp, and you know what she does? She helps out a lot, because she has an extra, or 2 extra Warps, because you can put her in Bishop. Like, it's just so good. It's just so good. It quite literally breaks several maps in the game. Lysithea getting it at B rank is something we haven't even touched on yet, which is nuts. She can get it to, she can get it for Chapter 5, which can let you skip every map from basically Chapter 5 onwards. You'd actually have to play the game. You are right, Costabile. I mean, imagine if there were even, like, route maps that were, like, common and not just the occasional route map. Or even, maybe even a seize, so you had to, like, seize the throne with your lord, like, anything. Yeah, this is massively aided by most of the maps in the game being kill boss. So you can just teleport in your boss killer, kill the boss, and leave. It's great. Even if you play, like, quote-unquote standard play, so, like, you're not skipping maps, or you're actively trying to not skip maps, Warp is still by far the best spell in the game. It's not even close. And at that point, having more uses of Warp is arguably more beneficial. Although, even if you're LTCing or one-turning maps, more uses of Warp is still good. Yeah, exactly. Like Gamer just said, like, you can still pivot a unit across the map to do things like stop reinforcements. You can use it to, you know, pick off problematic enemies who might otherwise be an issue. You can fling your enemy phase unit into the middle of the entire enemy team and just have them kill everything. It's great. Warp is very close to being unmatched in the entire game as things that are as good of it. Dancing and Raging Storm are about the only things that come close. It's ridiculous. But yeah, Warp has always been, like, a very strong tool in Fire Emblem, but the fact that in this game you get a cast of it, at least a cast of it each map, just, you don't even have to be conservative with Warp anymore. There is no need to be. You can have 8 casts of Warp every map if you wanted. It's insane. It's beyond broken. It's a ridiculous spell. And it's, yeah, like I say, one of the strongest tools in the entire game. And with Warp entering its rightful spot in the S+ tier at the top of the list, we have now finished the ranking of the spells in Fire Emblem Three Houses. I'm sure there'll be some disagreements on some of these placings, so feel free to let me know as long as you're civil about it. I'm happy to hear them. And I'd like to thank you all for watching. I will catch you all next time. There's a link to the Discord in the description if you would like to join there, either to discuss this video, the channel in general, or Fire Emblem as a whole. Feel free to jump in, it's a really great place, and there are a lot of cool people in there. So, can we move something out of fine to remove the line break? No. Unfortunately not, we're having the line break. Anyway, with all that said and done, I am A, hungry, and B, really need the bathroom, so I'm gonna go. I will catch you all next time, have a wonderful night, and I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.